When we talk about music genres, we usually define them in terms of their rhythmical, melodic, and harmonic properties, rather than on the feelings they evoke in the listener. There are, however, a couple of exceptions, and some songs are in fact considered horror songs. So in this video I'm going to tell you which my favorite ones are. Some, I admit, will be pretty obvious, but others not so much. So let's get started. I'm neither a musician nor a psychologist, so my ideas should be taken as what they are, which is the opinions of a fan. I will occasionally quote people who do know what they're talking about, but mostly it will be that. Okay? Now, before someone has a stroke, I'd like to point out that I am aware that the idea of this song being a horror song is a modern idea, and it wouldn't have been perceived as such at the time it was written, okay? Now, why do we perceive it as a horror song? Well, this is usually explained as a result of the use movie makers have made of the song. But that sort of begs the question, because there must be a reason why they chose this piece and not another one. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's harmonized in octaves, meaning while one line or voice is doing this, another one is doing this. And together they sound like this. It gives a sense of depth, and ultimately it evokes the idea that you are in a big space. At the same time, the instrument is usually played on is one which, to our ears, sounds old, or as Dr. Christopher Wiley puts it in an article you will find in the description, it sounds archaic. So the idea that you get is that of being in a big old place. In fact, in an album called Horror Sounds by Toccata, this piece is referred to as organ sound in an old castle. And we know that old and big equals creepy, okay? Additionally, as Sophia Hall explains, again article in the description, minor keys in general are often associated with emotions such as sadness, tragedy, and melancholy, okay? This one has a little bit of everything. It opens up with the guitars harmonizing in octaves once again. Then when the singing begins, it's in a whispery voice. Whispers suggest secrecy, but also a fear of being heard, like I'm hiding from some danger. And finally the lyrics are horror lyrics. They're, as the name suggests, about fear. So this one has several ingredients that make it a horror song. This one uses other musical tricks to get the same effect. First of all, it uses the tritone, which is this interval, which is also known as diabolus in musica. Now, what is so diabolical about the tritone? Well, it's basically fairly dissonant. Dissonant enough to give you the impression that something's off. There is something slightly uncomfortable about it, okay? And by the way, don't leave a comment saying that this interval was once forbidden by the Catholic Church, because that's apparently not true. Neely made a great video about this, which you will find in the description. Now, in addition to the use of the tritone, the other musical trick that makes this song sound creepy is the slow tempo. It generates expectation, giving you a sort of ominous vibe, right? And finally, in addition to the musical elements, you of course have the lyrics, which are definitely horror lyrics, okay? For neither ever nor never goodbye. Neither ever nor never goodbye. Most of you will recognize this one as the theme song for the series Dark, which is technically science fiction rather than horror, but the song's quite a horror song nonetheless. In addition to the lyrics, the song is sung in a low tone and with a low volume, which is not a whisper, but it gives you that same impression of sort of secrecy. Not necessarily fear, though, but secrecy. And this will combine with the presence of some harmony and some reverberation, which gives that voice a sort of prayer feel. Both things together make it very easy for you to imagine that the song is being sung by people wearing black hoods inside a candlelit room. Okay? Also, there is something that was pointed out in a comment by a YouTuber called Omyyer, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is the rhythm. There is a very noticeable pulse, dun dun dun, as if you had a metronome. He says it's like the inevitable cycle from which the characters struggle to escape. And even if you haven't watched Dark, you do get that inevitable, once again ominous vibe from that pulse standing out so much, right?
And in the morning they were gone. By the trees where they hung.
As much as I admire the other artists in the list, this one's hands down my favorite horror song. Now, the reason why I like it so much is that I think that almost anyone listening to the song, or at least to the chorus of the song, will find it beautiful in a very traditional way. And yet, at the same time, it's creepy. Now, some of the reasons why it's creepy are the same as those I mentioned for some of the other songs in the list. The slow tempo, the soft voice, particularly during the verse, the lyrics, of course. But then there is another element, which is the background. Both the music and the background voices are recorded in a way that makes them sound distant, which gives the song a dreamlike, or maybe I should say nightmarish, quality. This may in fact have been inspired by the horror movie trope of having children singing in the background during nightmare scenes. We don't really know if that's what they were going for, but it definitely evokes that type of atmosphere. Okay? I'd like to invite you now to tell me what your favorite horror songs are in the comment section. Okay? Thank you for watching and see you next time.